and we can just do those. Why don't we just make those items 3:12 and 3:13?
Okay.
Should be good to go.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to.
It's live on YouTube, as you probably just heard.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the June 10th meeting of the Webster Groves School District Board of Education, and our final meeting that we're going to be doing via Zoom. We will be back in person for the next meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda? And if so, I'll entertain any motions. Anybody need to make any changes to the agenda?
David, could I please ask that consent agenda items 4.06 and 4.12 be moved out of the consent agenda item?
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alex. So we'll make those 3.12 and 3.13. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so those two are so moved. And with that, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you, Keita. Thank you, Christine. All in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, good. Thank you very much. First item on the agenda then, superintendent remarks. Dr. Simpson.
Well, thank you very much. I am really have a lot of emotions tonight with the opportunity that we each have to honor Amy Clendenin and all that she's done for the children and the adults in the community of the Webster Groves School District. I'm excited that some of her past board colleagues are here, and I've got a comment to share from another one. But this is always a special time, I think, when we get to acknowledge our colleagues, our friends, for the work that they've done as board members. And so I will go ahead and just kind of kick it off and just say that I have had the opportunity to know Amy for quite a while, having been in the central office for a long time. And the first time I really got to know her was with our work on early learning and efforts to try and get kindergarten. And one of the things that showed up then that always shows up with Amy is she is such a remarkable listener, and she never speaks to speak. And when she speaks, people listen because of that. And she is also somebody who's all about kids, and she's never shied away from that, regardless of what the decision is. It's always been about the children. And it's always been about being never being satisfied with status quo for any of our kids. And so I really appreciate Amy for that. I will also say I appreciate, as I know I'm not alone, the comic relief that Amy has brought to many situations, whether it was in a public meeting or in other such gatherings. She's hysterical, she's funny, she's brilliant, she's got a quick wit, and I really enjoy that about Amy. One of the things that she also did when I came onto the board, and I won't keep going, I'll finish at some point, but I just so appreciated her care and her honesty with me as a new person. I knew from prior to my getting the job through this moment that she always had my back. And your back doesn't mean, having your back doesn't mean that you always agree with, or you always just say, yes, go ahead. She would always be willing to challenge, ask the hard questions, and always be supportive in how she did it. I never felt like nothing was ever personal. It was always just, again, coming back to what was best for the children. And then I will also say on a professional and personal side, Amy, I so appreciated your care for, again, the professional, but me, the person. You were there through a lot of big moments in my family's life, and some of them were really joyous, some of them really hard. But you always asked about my family, and I knew you cared about them. You just didn't ask, you genuinely cared, and you showed it in a lot of different ways. And so I'm just grateful for you, Amy, and I just wish you nothing but the best in this transition. You're already doing a great job, only better things to come. And I just wish the best for you and Jensen and the family. And I did want to share real quickly from Arnold, who was unable to be here this time around. And he had just said, thank you for your time and service to the students, staff, parents, and the community over the years. I know it truly was a love and a desire to help make learning the very, very best for students. It was a pleasure to be able to serve with you, and best wishes for continued success in your new endeavors. So with that, I will open up the floor.
Okay, so perhaps what we'll do is we'll invite our guests first to offer comments. So Steve Law.
Well, thank you, David, and thank you all for giving us the opportunity to participate in this chance to honor Amy and say some nice things about her. I can tell you that I did not know Amy prior to her campaigning for the board, and quickly became a big fan. I was not only impressed with her professional background, but as John had mentioned, just the compassion that she has, her humor. I believe that in my 8 years that I had the pleasure of serving with Amy on the board, she made me a better board member, and I felt like she made every one of us better. It was an opportunity to have very, very in-depth discussions, which helped in a great deal with having her experience. But also I feel, and maybe this is funny coming from one of the guys on the board, but to have another very capable and strong woman on the board was a great example for all of the young ladies in our district who could look up to someone who was just professionally so at a level that I think so many of our young gals in our district can strive to be like. And I think she set a wonderful example for her family, for her board colleagues, and I thought was an amazing representative of our district at many, many events, both regionally and statewide. And I can't tell you how much I appreciated her friendship. It was an honor during the year that I was board president to have Amy serve as the vice president that year. So I felt like it was a really great team to work with the folks at the central office and to have her by my side in leading the board. So Amy, I wish you lots of good luck, many blessings and good health going forward. And I know you're in a place that you're excited about. And I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you for your service to the district and for your friendship.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. And I'll invite other board members to go around and to talk about Amy as well.
David?
Yes. Oh, Jean, I'm sorry, Jean. I did not see you. Jean, please go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not using video. I'm on my phone. I'm on another Zoom, believe it or not. So anyway, I want to thank Amy for her years of service, her legal guidance for free. I mean, what an asset to the district. Her work on the superintendent search to find John, free kindergarten, pre-K work, push for innovation, tackling the space needs, addressing diversity issues with staff. But I'll always remember Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri School Board Association meetings, and how special it was to be able to spend some time socializing with other board members, getting to know each other better, getting to understand each other better. And I think, Amy, your father would be very proud of you for all the work that you've done in the past and everything that you're going to do up in Kirksville for Truman University. So best wishes.
Jean, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you stopping by to do that. All right, now I'll move on to board members. Let's do this. I'm going to try and do this into reverse order in terms of how long everybody has served with Amy. So, Alan, I'm going to let you go first.
I get the short straw or the long straw. I'm not sure which one it is. I get to finally go first for once, which is great. So Amy, just wanted to say thank you for all of your guidance, your support, your help. You know, when I was elected to the board, that I got an email from John and staff saying, who do you want to be your mentor? Who do you want to learn from on the board? And, it was pretty clear to me that everybody on the board is fantastic, but your years of experience, your compassion, your energy that you bring to this position, you come from such a place of caring for kids, as others have said. And I wanted to learn from that and learn from your professional experience and sort of how you, I've always sort of admired how you are able to take that passion and take that energy and really listen to what's going on and ask those tough questions, but ask them in a way, as I think it was Dr. Simpson that said earlier, that's really supportive, just trying to get at an answer, and an answer that's the best outcome for kids. So that is a skill, and a true skill, that's important for a board member. You've made, I think all of us, but especially me in my first year here, a much better board member, and I very much appreciate that. I will miss your guidance and your leadership on the board. We will miss, even though I didn't get to have an in-person board meeting with you ever, I'm sure that would have been fun. But I will miss the rare social occasions that we have had to have, that we have been able to attend together, and wish you nothing but the best at Truman State. They are lucky to have you. So good luck and best wishes, and please stay in touch.
Alan, thank you. Alex.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Amy, I actually remember meeting you, Stephen, and Kita at the wildly packed meeting of Meet the Board Members Night, where I was the only person to attend for some reason. But hey, it was a great get to know you for me, for all three of you, and so you've honestly you've just been such a tremendous knowledge. You've got so much insight just generally about all the goings on of a public school district, but which is invaluable, but specifically Webster Groves. I think you radiate passion, and although you're a lawyer, you actually have a great sense of humor. On that same vein, I'm gonna miss the dynamic duo of Amy and David for sure. So make sure you get a last laugh tonight. And best of luck in your next chapter. Thank you for all that you've done to Webster Groves and the numerous students who have and will continue to benefit from your efforts.
Thanks, Alex. Christine?
Amy, congratulations to you on this new position. Truman is really lucky to have you. I can't help but think back to when we first met, as I was considering a board run, and you were willing to come to my house and to speak. Both you and David spoke to me and my neighbor. And I think it was as much about wanting to help us as it was about, wanting to understand more about why we were interested in the board. And I understand why that was important. And I just think, to your time on the school board, you really led us to always do two things. And one of those things was to always care for kids and to listen to our community. And you will be missed. I really appreciate that I was able to learn from you as much as I was. And I know that with you stepping away from the board, not only will we miss you, but we'll miss your institutional knowledge as well. So thank you, Amy.
Christine, thank you. Kita?
Well, everybody else got to say all the good stuff first, so I will pretty much just say ditto to everything that everyone has said. Amy, we will miss you. We'll miss your sense of humor. We will miss your knowledge. We'll miss all of that. I personally will miss that I don't think I'll have anyone else that I can be twinsies with at a graduation anymore. We will miss your impeccable sense of fashion. Good luck and God bless. Please don't forget us little people. And just, we'll miss you. That's all I can say.
Kita, thank you. Joe?
There we go, sorry. So I did not know Amy before I ran for the board. And I will say, I knew I was going to like Amy when we did the League of Women Voters event at Hickson, which was nerve wracking. And I was sitting next to her and she was so kind and made me feel so much better about just being there and that I was going to make it through and survive that event. And then from there, I think just as you come onto the board, she's been helpful from day one. And I will miss just that unique combination of a crazy amount of knowledge in terms of policy, but also her experience. And then just as everyone else has said, her passion for kids. And I love that she comes with a perspective and has always given us the perspective of kids with special needs. And one that speaks to my heart is what it's like to have a crazy boy, because sometimes that's a different perspective. And at the end of the day, I think as someone who sometimes speaks from my heart without thinking and letting it go through my brain, Amy is always the voice of reason to bring reality back into focus and settle things down. So Amy, you will be hugely missed. And we will be thinking of you a lot, especially as we meet for policy and we need your wise words. But I know you're excited and I'm super excited for you, and Truman State is so lucky to have you. So I wish you all the best. I will miss seeing you outside of board meetings and walking with you in Forest Park, but hopefully you will be around sometimes.
Great, Joe, thank you very much. Yeah, so Amy, I didn't know you really before we ran for the board either. You're a fellow Clark School parent. Back in the day, Clark School was providing more board members, I think, than any other school, with Steve obviously as well. And obviously got to know you through the election. I remember, one of the things you said at the very beginning was that you were clearly the best qualified person to run for the board, and it's true. There's no doubt about it. You were. I mean, your work as a school board lawyer, but also your advocacy for children as well. I mean, I think again, everyone's mentioned you talk about children with special needs, your passion for pre-kindergartners being something that's very important to you, and your interest in innovation as being sort of three things that were very important and that you've driven. And I do believe as a district we've made good progress in all of those. I think that everybody has commented on the experience you bring, on the wisdom that you've brought, the leadership you brought in your role as president of the years you're president, and that's very true. And I know we're absolutely going to miss your experience. I will say personally, yes, I miss your experience, your guidance, but most of all, I will miss your friendship. You've gone from my not knowing you before to one of my great friends, and so I'm sorry that to see you go, but I am very pleased with where you've ended up. I think it's a great role for you. I think there's so much you can provide to Kirksville, to Truman State. I think you'll be a huge success there, and I think you'll have a chance to go and really lead things there. I hope you'll sort of keep in mind what's going on in schools in Missouri. I think it's very important. I think that the wisdom you bring is wisdom that would continue to serve the state well. So thank you very much. And if nobody else has anything to say, then as was commented, Amy gets to have the last word.
Wow. I am, first of all, incredibly humbled. I hesitated to even participate in this because I, unlike David, don't like being the center of attention. But your words touch me and mean more to me than you will ever know. So thank you, truly, from the bottom of my heart. I just want to take a few minutes to share what this district has meant to me and to my family, as well as some parting wishes to you all and to future Webster Grove school boards. And I promise I'm going to keep it brief because, again, I'm not David. When I ran for the board in 2011, I had 2 kids at Clark Elementary and 1 at Walter Ambrose Center. And my twins graduated in 2018, and my youngest just finished 8th grade at Hickson. Just before my older daughter graduated, she and some of her classmates who had been friends since kindergarten decided to drive to each of their former schools and take photos. So they drove to the Ambrose Center, they drove to Clark, they drove to Steger, Hickson, and then finally Webster Grove High School. They reminisced, they cried. And when my daughter came home, she said to me, "Mom, I feel so lucky to have grown up here and so proud to say that I went to school in Webster Groves." And I teased her at the time that she would probably be one of those people that grows up and then moves back to Webster Groves. And she said through tears, "Yeah, I probably will." As a parent, I've made plenty of mistakes. But when I heard my daughter express how profoundly she and her siblings and others were impacted by the teachers and everyone else at the district who supported and nurtured her and so many other children, I knew I got something really right. I'm really proud of this district and so grateful for the many talented and caring humans who work here. I'm also very proud of the school board. As I thought about my time as a school board member and what makes me most proud of our board and things that I hope that will carry on to future boards, the first thing that came to mind is that we have consistently had board members who seek election because they want to serve the district and they want to serve our students. We are not partisan. We are not motivated by personal agendas. We may not always agree on details, but we understand that our focus must be on what's best for kids. And that doesn't mean what's best for some kids, doesn't mean what's best for my kids or other board members' kids or the kid that you remember being in school. As a public school, we're responsible for educating all learners, no matter what perceived advantages or disadvantages they bring with them when they walk through the door. In my profession, I've worked with a lot of school board members and lots of administrators. Not only are you guys a great board, but John and his team are as good as any I've ever seen. In addition to the professionalism and knowledge that with which most people are familiar, what most people don't know and don't see is the heart and the love and the compassion that goes into every decision that they make. So although I'm feeling a little bit sentimental that my time on the board and my time in the district is over, I have no concerns about our future early learners, our future Clark Eagles, our Avery All-Stars, Bristol Bulldogs, Edgar Road Jaguars, Gibbons Dolphins, Hickson Huskies, or Webster Groves Statesmen. They are all in good hands. And finally, I just want to express to you all, my former colleagues on the current board and former boards, that I just want to express my gratitude to you for the work that you've done. It has been really a joy to work with each of you, and I appreciate your friendship, and I will miss each of you very much, even David.
Thank you very much, Amy. And yeah. Okay.
Before we let Amy go, I wanted to show her because we, of course, have beautiful artwork.
Oh, right. Yes.
Amy, since you're not in person, I will send you pictures. But I did want to show the board real quick and show Amy, really. So this is the first one. Can you see that one?
Uh-huh.
All right. Can you see the perspective, the side, just so you could see? Oh, wait. No, you can't see that.
It just went away.
So then just so you could see kind of how the frame is.
Oh, cool.
All right. So then that's the one. And then I will share the second one. Number 2. Oh, sorry. There it is.
That's cool. Very cool.
So I'll send you pictures of both. You can make your decision and we'll make sure we get it to you.
I love that tradition, and I'm glad that you're continuing it for my benefit.
Absolutely.
And also a gavel, I believe.
Yes, we do have that too. We do have that too. We'll get
But
that.
David won't be here to whack with it. Seriously, guys, thank you so much. I love you all. I miss you. I'm happy to be a resource to anybody at any time. Give me a call.
Thank you,
Thank
Amy.
you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Amy,
And
thank you
now
very
I
much.
am going to sign off. Have a lovely meeting.
Thank you very much, Amy.
Bye, Amy. Bye, gang.
Steve,
Thank you.
Steve and Jean,
Thank
thank
you,
you very
Steve and
much
Jean.
Thanks,
for
guys.
your
Bye,
time as well.
Jean.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, item number 2, public comment. So I draw everybody's attention. We have a couple of public comments there. Draw everybody's attention to them. And I will note that just as will be the case when we're back in person as well, the board recognizes, reads the public comments. We don't actually formally respond to them, which is the same as when people make public comments in the meetings. Next item is the board policies first read. I don't know if anybody has any questions about there are a large number of policies there. I don't know if anybody has any questions about them, or if anybody on the policy committee wants to make any comments about those.
I would just say, just to encourage you to reach out to the board members with any questions. This is the first read of these policies. There is a lot of them, but if you have any questions between now and our next meeting in early July, just reach out.
And perhaps given the number, if anybody's got any questions, if they can, perhaps if they can sort of submit them to John, and then perhaps you can, you or somebody from the policy committee can sort of go through any questions in the next public meeting. That would be good. Okay, if there are no questions right now about that, next item I'd bring to your attention is the correspondence log. And that's basically there where we have gone and we've had questions from individuals, and you'll see the questions and the responses that they have received. Item 2.05 is the board calendar. John?
Yeah, no new changes to this particular calendar at this time. So yeah, nothing new has changed. I did send you today for the opening day event, which is scheduled to be held at Moss Field. I put that on your calendar, and we'll get that updated on here as well. So that's it.
And I will note there, as it points out there, that our next scheduled formal board meeting will be held in person at the service center.
David,
yeah.
I just want to, so the one the one in July is that quick consent agenda one that's scheduled for Zoom still.
Right. Yeah. No, we'll do that as a Zoom meeting. But yeah, no.
Okay.
The next. So yeah. So just so everybody understands, periodically we have some items. Just because we don't meet in July, we will, however, need to have a very brief meeting just to go through procedural items such as sort of allowing checks to be paid and things like that. But there'll be no business of any substantial business at all being discussed at that. The next meeting, the next sort of normal board meeting we have will be at the service center in August. Next item, 4.06, the board vacancy. Obviously, we've just gone and thanked Amy for her service. There is a vacancy for the board. Would just like to, I have some ideas myself as to how we should handle that, but before I offer anything, I'd just like to see if any board members have any thoughts as to how or if we should seek to fill that before the next election. I'm looking for anybody who wants to say anything. Otherwise, I will tell you what I think. Keita.
I'm gonna turn my video off. I'm okay with leaving it until the next election. I don't know. I'll just leave it there. I'm okay with leaving it blank or leaving it open until the next election. I'll just put that out there.
Joe, did you have a comment?
I was just going to say exactly what Keita said. I think it's not a extremely long period of time, and to leave it and let the voters decide seems like the easiest thing to do. But I'm open to others' suggestions. That's just my thought.
Thank you. Alan, were you going to say something?
Basically echo those same things. I think it's important for the community to have input in decisions like this. So I think being that it's not an extremely long period of time, holding it open is appropriate.
Christine?
I'm in agreement with what everyone has said.
Thank you. And Alex?
Likewise.
Okay, yeah, and so I will tell you that yes, I mean that's my feeling as well. I think that it is better that the voters decide who goes on the board rather than board members going and doing that. Obviously, if we go and appoint somebody until the election, you know, that person typically will have something sort of there may be a perceived advantage there. You may discourage other people, and I agree with the sentiment everybody else has raised. That I think if we wait until the next election and we allow those who are interested to go and run for the balance of Amy's term. I don't know if we need a. I don't think we need a formal motion to do that. I think it's just, you know, we will just make it clear that so we will leave that that vacancy open. It will then at the April election it will come up, and it will be along with the other seats that will be up for election then. Okay, good stuff. Thank you very much. Item 2.07, board liaison assignments. I sent out a suggestion as to what those should be. I tried to reflect what everybody had said to me in terms of what they were interested in taking on. Obviously, with Amy's resignation from the board, everyone's got to pick up a couple of other things. Does anybody have any comments about those assignments? Is there anything that that isn't going to work for anybody? I'm looking around. I don't see anybody. Okay. In that case, Sherry, if you can go and put those out on the board website, just so that everybody knows which board members are responsible, both in terms of the committees and then obviously in terms of liaison for the various schools as well. Item 2.08, Chartwell Scholarship.
Sam, do you want to jump in and introduce? And I know Nancy's here.
Chartwells is here, Nancy Plant, and Chartwells is gracious enough to make a donation for a scholarship for a student at the high school. So I will let her take over now and talk about the scholarship.
Hello, everyone. Chartwells was able to do a $1,000 scholarship for students who were receiving free lunch and who had minimal assistance with other scholarships or school funding for college. And we were actually able to do 4 $500 scholarships this year because we had money left over from previous years where students decided not to go on to their adventures after high school. So we did 4 recipients this year to 4 pretty amazing students.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Huge thank you.
Appreciate that. Appreciate everything that that Chartwells has done. All right. If there's nothing else there, then reports from superintendent and staff. So John, planning for the 2021-22 school year.
Yeah, just going to touch on a few items. 2021 ended pretty well, thanks to, again, the amazing teachers and administrators and staff of our school system. And there were a lot of celebrations that maybe didn't look the same as they've had in years past, but they prioritized making our children feel special for all they accomplished this year. For the 21-22 school year, again, we're going to be full in person, the majority of our students. Right now, we have 16 students that have signed up to take virtual through MOCAP. We are in the process of creating our return to school planning guide. You remember that's something that was kind of central to our work. It's kind of a one-stop shop for what we're going to do for the health and safety of the social emotional well-being of students, for the physical safety of the environment, for the learning and all those different things. We're in the process of developing that. We will be holding a little bit. We've received some guidance because one of the big questions is face coverings and what are you going to do with face coverings and all these different levels. And so I think we all have many thoughts related to that, but it's my understanding from one of the infectious disease people that we've spoken about that the CDC and then to follow county health will come out with a position on that sometime hopefully in early to mid-July. So that's when we will come up and finalize our decision on that. We are in the process this year. We have a huge benefit, and you'll hear in some different reports some of that work this summer, the opportunity to design and plan things other than just react, which involved a lot of designing and planning, but it was certainly all reactionary going into the pandemic. So even speaking with Jason, who has an opportunity to think forward and with others on curriculum work, practices in classrooms, it's really just exhilarating and very healthy in a lot of ways. So that's how the team is spending a lot of time, is design, organization, all those things we do typically during the summer. One of the things I just wanted to highlight that's also a part of our strategic efforts is we're started this year, thanks to Jason, thanks to Sean, we're going to have a new administrator orientation. So while we've oriented administrators along the way, we've never had a formal experience that all of them participate in, just like the teachers. It will include just a lot of time spent on our strategic direction of the school system, as well as just things like SIS, how do you get into our student information system? So again, huge kudos to Sean and to Jason for that work. It's instrumental. The last thing I'll comment on, and then I'll entertain any questions or thoughts that you have, is just encouraging time away. It's critically important, just like for you as people in your work, it's important for our team and everybody in the school system to take time when they can to get away, to relax and to restore and to rejuvenate and hopefully experience some joy along the way. And so I will be looking to do that over the next couple of weeks. My teammates are, all finding different times, coordinating different times when we can get that time. So just kind of wanted you to be aware of that. And I appreciate your continued encouragement of all of us in the school system to make sure that we find that time, knowing that we're going to be better. We're going to be better for kids and staff and families if we care for ourselves. So with that, that's it for my sharing, and any questions that you have, I'm happy to entertain
any questions.
I have one comment, and that is, I'm so glad to hear you say that, John, that you're going to take some time off, and that the other staff members are also going to take some time off. I'm going to send an email, and you better not answer it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We all do.
Anybody, anything else? Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much, John. And we look forward, obviously, as you get, as we find out and get better advice as to what's going on. Obviously, look forward to hearing what it is you're going to recommend that we do there. So thank you. 3.02, medical insurance. I can see your screen. I can't hear you very well.
Is that better? Can you hear me
Not,
better now?
not really. Can everybody else hear?
No.
Oh,
I cannot.
Okay. No. Are you able
Very
to
faint,
get?
Pam.
There, is that better?
Yes, much better. Thank you very much.
Let's try this again. Okay, so the insurance committee met several times this year to discuss our medical insurance, our medical, dental, and vision insurance. Let's see if I can get this to move. So as you know, we belong to the CSD Insurance Trust pool. There's over 20 school districts in the St. Louis metropolitan area that belong to the trust. They are a self-insured pool, so our medical and dental premiums are based on actual claims experience. Then the trust looks at the average of the most recent 3 years and then calculates the average loss ratio for those 3 years. And then our increase or decrease in premiums for the next year is based off of that.
Hey,
So
Pam, your slide didn't advance, for me at least. Did her slide advance for you all? I think you tried to click on slide 2, but it just didn't go.
it's not there. Let's see here. Hold on.
Maybe click on.
Just hit page down. That may actually go and do it.
Yeah, because mine's moving.
No.
Did it move now? Was it on the second slide?
We got a blue screen.
It's on nothing. Yeah.
Hang on. Just trying to see if I can.
There you go.
Right. Okay.
So we've been very fortunate this year that our claims have been low, which is going to be a benefit for us as our premiums were calculated for next year based on our current loss ratio. We were in a good spot with more premiums being paid than claims coming in for the district. So we're looking at only a 1% increase for the 21-22 school year, which is really phenomenal. That's the lowest increase the district has seen in many years. The industry standard for an increase in medical insurance is 6 to 8%. So as we discuss this with the insurance committee, the increase is going to be about $8 per employee per month. And the recommendation that administrators made to the committee, and the committee was in agreement, is that the district would cover that increase. And the reason behind that is because the trust as a whole also had a very good year this year. And because they also had claims being lower than the premiums that came in, they were able to give a credit back to every district in the trust. The Webster Grove School District received $228,000 in a credit this year. So because the district received that large credit, our recommendation then is that the district will cover the cost of that increase for next year. So right now, the district employee cost share is 91.92% district, and then employees are paying 8.08%. So if this recommendation is approved, the split would be 92.01 for the district and 7.99 for employees. So it's a very, very minimal shift. And if an employee does elect a more expensive plan, because we do have more expensive plans that are offered, they will see an increase in their contribution. The kids plan is going to see a 7.3% increase, and that is due to the fact that they have had claims that have exceeded their premiums by close to 20% actually, but the trust has agreed on a 7.3% increase for them. And then dental insurance, which is fully paid for by the board, is going to see a 4.5% decrease, which is $1.56 per employee per month. Then I just wanted to share some thoughts on the committee work for next year. We're going to work on gathering information from other districts in St. Louis County so we can compare what type of plans they're offering to their employees, and to compare also to look at what are their employees contributing to their plan, so we can do a comparison and bring that to the committee and then to the board. So, and that is all the information I have to share. Are there any questions for me?
So I think it's just worth pointing out that whereas the board pays, you said sort of 92% of a single employee's cover. If you cover your family, then then that is largely covered by the employee themselves, and that's not a board provided cover. Any questions for Pam? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. You don't need a motion for this, do you?
No.
No, okay. All right. Final budget adjustments.
See if I can do a better job sharing my screen.
Okay, you've gone quiet again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Not
faint,
very
faint.
well. Not at all. No, I can't hear you. Now you're muted. Glad we're going back in person.
Is that
Yes,
better now? Okay.
yes.
For some reason, when I go to screen share, okay, can you see this presentation?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
can.
good.
Okay, so the budget adjustment this year is, our final adjustment is really simple. We only wanted to adjust one account, and that is our M&M surtax. That revenue stream can be divided however the board approves it to be. We have started the year by putting all of the revenue that was anticipated from M&M into the incidental or the general fund. We budgeted $1,255,000 because if you remember back in June when we were approving this budget last year, we knew we were going to have a lot of withholdings and we thought we would need those funds more in the general fund or the incidental fund. Well, as we went through the year, those withholdings were released, and our recommendation is to split them out according to the tax rate, just like the district had done in the previous year. So there's no change in dollar amounts on this. It's just changing that we can split it out between all four funds instead of being just in that one fund.
And just for everybody who's not as good on the mnemonics, M&M.
Merchant and manufacturer tax. So it's
Okay.
Can't hear.
Pam, we
I think-
can't hear you again.
I think that was merchandise and manufacturing.
Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
Yep, no, I can hear.
Okay. Any questions about this final budget adjustment?
Okay. I was
And
just going to, can you hear me now? I was going to share a
Yes.
couple other
Yeah.
thoughts here real
oh,
quick.
absolutely,
just for
please.
the-
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Just for the end of the year, maybe these headphones will help. So I just want to let you know that revenue is expected to come in higher than anticipated. We just received a large tax payment just this week, and that's putting our current and delinquent taxes $660,000 over budget. That M&M surtax came in this week. We're really watching it all year, wondering if it was going to hit the mark. Well, it ended up being $300,000 over budget with the payment that we received this week. And that is good news because that'll help offset transportation and our a la carte lunch accounts that are under what we budgeted. Expenditures too are going to end the year really well, thanks to all of our principals and department budget managers. They're all under budget. I did just want to share that the food service program looks like we still have some payments to make and we'll get revenue from DESI still later this month. But it looks like we're going to end the year with a deficit about $150,000 to $200,000 in that program, which is mainly due to the loss of the a la carte revenue. Before the pandemic hit, we had been receiving in 2019-20, $184,000 just in a la carte revenue. In 18-19, it was $300,000 in a la carte revenue. So that was a big hit to us this year since the high school students were not eating lunch at the high school. And that is all I had on this year's budget. If there are any questions, and I will need a motion to approve that.
Yeah. So first, any questions from anybody? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the final budget adjustment?
Move we approve the final budget adjustment as presented.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so the final budget adjustment for 2021 fiscal year is approved. Next, 3.04, adoption of the 21-22 fiscal year budget.
Yes, thank you.
And
So
I
as you
can
know, we
see your
we have-
screen fine. Yep.
we have budget goals each year that we want to provide the resources that will promote a learning environment that is challenging and supportive of all students. We want to ensure strong fiscal and operational management. We want to maintain our class sizes. We have our goal of setting salaries at 3% to 5% over the St. Louis County median salary. And we also want to maintain a competitive employee benefit package. And I think we've been able to reach all those goals in this budget presentation. And I also wanted to share with the community, as the board, you know, this goal was approved, I think 2 months ago. The goal to promote a culture of dignity in which learners feel included and a sense of belonging so they may flourish as human beings and as students. And then there are the three prioritizations of how we will reach that goal listed, that the social, emotional, and physical well-being of all learners will be considered, the educational excellence for each student, and then connecting and collaborating with internal and external partners to meet the needs of all learners. So all those things went into consideration as we developed this budget for next year. And we'll start by looking at some of the revenue assumptions that were made. This time of the year, this was a reassessment year for the county, so they're working on reassessing property located in all throughout St. Louis County. As of this time, they are not done with that process yet. So the assessor's office did give us some estimates, but did tell us that they will most likely change when we get those final numbers when it's time to compute the tax rate. So right now we're estimating an increase of 2.1% in our current and delinquent tax revenue for all funds. The estimated assessed valuation is just over $1 billion, the first time that the district's hit $1 billion. Residential AV is increased by 7.5%. Commercial assessed valuation is flat. And then personal property decreased by 1.9%. Then we used a collection rate of 97.5. We had used 97.8 previously, and we dropped that down to 97.5 this year, just to be conservative with all the uncertainties due to the pandemic and to the assessor's office not having their numbers finished at this time. So as I mentioned, we may need to adjust these numbers and the tax rate when we get to September. Then here a chart just showing that assessed valuation look in 2013, where it was just about $700 million, and how every couple of years with the reassessment cycle, it has gone up, or now we're at the $1 billion mark. Quite a bit of an increase since 2013. And of course, as I think most of you know, this year with an example with real estate for homeowners going up 7.5%, we are capped by the CPI index on that tax rate when we calculate that. And that is only 1.4% is what the state is telling us we have to use in that rate calculation that we do in September. Our next biggest revenue stream is the state funding formula. So we took the ADA from this year and are increased it for next year about 40 students. But that is still below where we were for 1920. So for next year, we're using the fiscal year 1920 ADA number, because when the formula looks at the highest number from either the current year or the preceding 2 years, so we're still going to be using fiscal year 20's information for the formula calculation. Summer school ADA, I estimated that to decrease by 41. We did have more students attend summer school last year when it was all virtual, and that calculates then to about $140,000 decrease from the previous year. Prop C funding. So DESE is telling us we're going to get $1,047 per ADA. A little bit different this year. Normally we get paid on the ADA from the previous year. Because of the pandemic, there's a state statute that said actually you can go back one more year. So we're also using fiscal year 20 for this calculation. That's going to go up about $50,000. That M&M surtax, we do not expect a change there. Interest, we decreased it slightly again, kind of depressing to look at that interest revenue that we have coming in right now. I don't think that's going to increase anytime soon. Food service, we increased that to reflect high school being in session. Hopefully we'll see that a la carte revenue. But we are going to need to make an adjustment later in the year in this area. So the federal government has extended the free meal program. How we had free meals for everyone this year, they're going to extend that into next year. So as we get through our planning phase, we're going to have to move some of our revenue from the local area where we have it right now, where students would be paying for it, into the federal area, since it will be a federal revenue stream. Student activities, Adventure Club and preschool, we increased all of them to the levels of participation that we had pre-COVID. So all those programs will hopefully be back to our normal state this coming year. And here to look at revenue by source for all of our funds, 83.8, almost 84% of the revenue is from local sources. The next largest being the state at 13.6, and then the county and federal both at 1.2%. And we'll look at the expenditure side. So we have those board-approved salary increases at our goal of either 3% or 5% over the county median. And I think we've set a goal to really examine that for next year to see if we can, for equity purposes, get everyone to that 5% over county median mark. Medical premiums are increased by 1% in the budget, and those dental premiums are decreased by 4.5%. Supply accounts, we reduced them because we had those carryover amounts that just all the buildings carried over from the previous year. So we've reduced them. As we go through July and we close out this fiscal year, we'll determine if the buildings have carryover from the fiscal year we're in right now. And then when we do the next budget adjustment, we'll add those in next year. The building budgets are all based on a projected enrollment number. They get so much per student, so those were calculated. Utility counts received a slight increase. Capital outlay, the big change there was we estimated that we'll spend about $3 million next year to finish up those Prop E projects. So that was changed from the $18 million that was in the budget this year. Then of course, there's other minor adjustments throughout the budget to align it with our expected needs. Now, if we look at expenditures for all funds, you can see salaries is almost 57%, benefits almost 16%. And then we have debt service at 7.2, the next highest category, and then supplies at 6.1%. Just kind of gives you an idea how much of our budget, even when looking at the total budget that includes the debt service fund, how much of it goes towards salaries and benefits. Then we just kind of wanted to talk a little bit too about our Prop E projects. We had some unforeseen circumstances that arose this past year, and we had some change orders that the district had to cover. We're anticipating there are going to be more change orders this coming year. And Mr. Rob Stuber has joined us this evening too, in case the board has any questions. So just as a refresher, some of the things that we've already addressed, there was soil remediation that needed to be done because of compacted rock under building A and building B footprints. There were foundation modifications and some concrete and steel changes under the building B footprint. And then that was all at Hickson. Then on the safety, security, and accessibility package, there were some structural issues at Bristol, sewer and civil issues at Edgar Road, utility piping at Avery, the elevator pit depth was an issue with the county. I think that was Edgar Road. I didn't write the building on there. I believe that was Edgar Road. Avery had some additional work that needed to be done. And then Avery had a putback line that had to be addressed. So we've spent, the district, out of district funds this year, have spent about $300,000 on those change orders. And we've put another $150,000 in the budget for next year. That's included in case we do need to use those, some of those funds for next year. If something happens and we don't need that $150,000, we will instead spend those money on some maintenance improvement projects in the district. So any questions on that?
Pam, just one thing you said that I think, I guess there's 9 other people watching, so they probably know, but regardless of the number of people watching, I still think it's an important important factor about the assessed value of residential homes. So can you just repeat that? Because I think that's just worth, I mean, I just think that's worth making sure everybody's aware of, because there are very high tax rates. So when we see assessed value go up, you would think that maybe that the same amount would be going to where you think it's going.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up again. Yeah. So right now, the assessors estimated that residential assessed values are going up 7.5%. But when we calculate the tax rate, we're only allowed to capture whatever the CPI is, and it is only 1.4%. So we will not be able to capture in our tax collections that entire 7.5%.
So I have a question about the free meals. So you said the federal government is providing those. So I guess 2 questions. One, can you just talk just a little bit more about how that works? And then can you talk about what goes on at high school? Because obviously, are there free meals for kids at the high school, and they're still choosing to go and do a la carte, or what's going on there? Perhaps if you can chat about those 2 things, please.
Sure. So every student will have a free meal if they buy the normal meal through the district. And that was the same as was this past year. The high school students didn't get to participate in anything since they weren't here during the day. But when that happens, we get the full reimbursement from the federal government for that meal. So we started off this past year really slow. I think because of COVID and the pandemic, maybe more people were packing lunches. But as the year went on, we had more and more participation, and we're able to make up that revenue, because we do get that fully paid from the federal government now. Every time that we provide that free meal, we get reimbursed from the government through DESE. So then next year, students will have that same opportunity to get that free meal. At the high school, we'll open up the a la carte lines too, so they'll be able to have those various options that Chartwell's has offered in the past. We'll have those options again at the high school as long as they're there all day. So that should help that revenue stream, and they will also be able to get those free standard meals.
Okay, so all right, good. So yeah, so thank you. That's much clearer to me. Any other questions?
I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about Hickson.
Oh, please go ahead.
So also, in the board packet tonight too is another bid package for a window film packet. We are also still have a couple other things with that safety and security, and I just wanted to make sure the board's aware of that will be coming. So at Hickson, the next phase there will be to look at their existing windows and doors to determine where window film is needed. There might be some windows that have to be replaced, and we'll kind of deal with that and come up with a plan as we reassess the facility. And then all the school buildings, we still need to go through and look at the interior doors as was promised with Prop E. And since we are at a place where we've used almost all of our Prop E funds, we have about $100,000 left aside that was set aside for the window film and the door package. If we go over that 100,000, we will have to use district reserves. And I just wanted to make sure the board was aware of that we're all on the same page with that. So we do have healthy reserves, and this year's budget, we should have a couple $1 million of a surplus at the end of the year. So if we go through this next package and we decide we need doors, if we need more window film, and we need more than the $100,000, we may come back to the board and ask for a budget adjustment to add money to the budget to cover those projects.
Do you have a sense as to how much that's likely to run?
I really don't. Rob, do you?
Yeah, that would literally take a complete inventory of all interior doors and doors with side light windows. We're talking probably a couple thousand door and window openings. So I think it wouldn't be prudent for me to even try to throw spaghetti at the wall for a dollar figure on that until we can do a complete inventory and make some sort of recommendation.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And the reason that this, so I mean, I know that when we put the proposition together, we looked and we sort of said we're going to go and prioritize various items based on the funding that we have, that we've raised, and when we sort of run out, we're going to sort of stop, so to speak. But at the same time, I'm conscious that these are safety items, and this was a key part of the proposition when it went through. Is it just that we've got other costs from other things, and that's why there aren't the funds to do this as part of the regular funds then?
Yes, the Hickson project, if you recall, came in about $1.5 million over the budgeted amount. So it has kind of used all of those excess funds that would have been used for more door and window film projects.
Just as a side note, if I could make a quick comment, once we do get through this window film package, if the board approves it tonight, I think it's important for the board to understand that at least we will have a hardened or very secured exterior openings at all of our buildings, obviously except for Hickson. In other words, main front entrances have received upgraded securities. Secondary entrances, meaning the elevator entrances, have upgraded securities. All of the interior doors do have latching lock bolts. They're thumb turn bolts. So that is at least an added piece of security that was installed, a couple, probably 5-6 years ago. So I just wanted to let you know that we've kind of prioritized the exterior first, and then move on to do the inventory of the interior doors.
Okay, so this is item 3.11. This is the $195,000 then?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Questions from board members?
And I had just a couple more slides here on the budget just to share, so we're all on
okay. Sorry.
the same page. That's okay. With our total budget here, if you look at the total budget, we're at a deficit of $2.3 million, but that's because that includes $3 million that we have in the budget to spend on those Prop E projects. If we take that out, we end up with a surplus of $655,000 in all funds. Then if we just look at what we consider operating funds, the general funds, the teacher fund, the capital projects fund, without the Prop E bond funds included, we do have a balanced budget. It is barely balanced at $149 surplus, but we are balanced in those operating funds. And here, if we just look at our expenditures in those operating funds, you can see we're at almost 80% of those operating funds are being spent on salaries and benefits. And just breaking down, looking at the general and teachers funds, and we do that because every year we transfer money from the general fund to the capital projects fund just to cover expenses that are needed each year. So we always want to make sure we have a surplus here in these two funds, and we do, of $600,000. The debt service fund is strong. We have almost $9 million in revenue projected with $5.2 million in expenditures. So a surplus balance there of $655,000. The debt service is in a really good place for a future no tax increase bond issue that we will talk about in the next few months. And here is how much we have in the Prop E bond funds. We estimated $2,000 in revenue and interest. We'll probably be lucky if we see that $2,000, and expenditures $3,000,001 is what we're estimating to finish up those Prop E projects. And here I just wanted to share with you the fund balances that the district, they were increasing from like 2017 through 2020. The estimate is showing for, when you just look at the budget, it's going to go down slightly for 2021. But I think with the budget surplus that we're going to end up with, we really should be pretty close to that same fund balance percentage. And of course, if that one goes up, the estimate for 2022 is going to increase also. This just looks at that in a different light, looking at the dollar amount instead of the fund balance. Again, it capped in 2020, and I think we will just decrease slightly as this fiscal year is ended in June. And then some upcoming revisions. As I mentioned, we're going to have to most likely adjust the tax revenue accounts as we get final numbers from the assessor's office. We'll have normal budget adjustments throughout the year. Once we receive different allocations, usually allocations change for title, or we'll have carryover funds for title that we'll have to add to the budget. Our ESSER funding, we've not added anything from ESSER. We're being allocated on ESSER 2, $964,000, and ESSER 3, over $2.1 million. We're still working on our final plan, how we're going to spend that money. I just listed a few various things that DESE says we're allowed to spend. We can spend it on salaries, instructional programs for addressing learning loss. We could do things like replace carpet with tile for better cleaning. We could spend it on disinfecting, or we can spend it on mental health services. So those are things that we're still working on that plan, and we'll bring that back to the board in the future. And then child nutrition, I think I've talked about already that we're going to have to realign those budgets, those revenue accounts a little bit, because every student will be able to receive a free meal. But also, we just received notification just about a week ago that the USDA has announced that they are adding additional funds to state agencies then to give to school districts for any operational cost and any loss of participation when the pandemic hit. So it's going to be from when the pandemic hit through December. So if we served fewer meals during that time than we would have like in the normal year, the year before, they are going to give us a credit for that loss of revenue. So if we served more meals, even if they were free, we still have to pay to prepare them. And if we didn't serve as many, then we didn't get as much reimbursement from the federal government. And they're looking to basically fill that gap, and we'll get some additional funding for that. They're hoping that we have those funds by the end of October. In the budget forecast, we always need to share these forecasts with the board. As you know, it's kind of hard every year. It's hard to forecast what really is going to happen. During the pandemic, it's been a little bit harder, but it looks like if we use conservative numbers, we'll have about a $700,000 deficit next year, but that also depends a lot on what happens with the assessed valuation and the tax rate calculation. And then that grows to about $1 million the second year. It doesn't grow as much because that is also another reassessment year. So we're hoping our taxes go up more in that reassessment year than they will next year. But then I just wanted to share with the board too, the scenario. In this scenario, the only thing that I changed was if our student enrollment does not go back up to the level it was in 1920, what will happen to the state funding formula, and we will lose about $1.3 million in 22-23 if the enrollment stays close to the level it's at right now instead of going back up to where we were pre-pandemic. So we're hoping a lot of those kiddos return to school this fall. And then so we would end up with about a $2 million deficit in 22-23 instead of $700,000, and then it would be $2.4 million in 23-24. So we'll just watch the enrollment as the fall semester starts, and we'll decide then if the enrollment goes up. Of course, that'll be good news for the district. If not, we'll just have to make a plan how we're going to address that loss in revenue. And now, David, I am totally done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Anybody have any questions?
I have a couple of questions, David.
Please go ahead.
So Pam, you mentioned that enrollment data, and that's obviously concerning and has a pretty big impact. I know that some enrollment will continue to take place over the summer. Are you guys seeing trends yet? Are we far enough along with enrollment to see any trends if those kids are coming back yet? Do we have any gut feeling?
I look at that data. I'll jump in, Pam. Or Pam, do you want to answer? I'm not trying to answer for you, but I
feel
probably
free.
look
Yes.
at it more than you. Yeah, definitely a substantial amount. The overwhelming majority of the children are returning.
Good.
There are certainly some that are not, but looking at the data as late as 4 o'clock today, I'm really encouraged with the students that are coming back, as well as the new enrollees to the district. So, yeah,
Great.
I'm very optimistic.
Great. A second question, if I can jump into, Pam, is regarding those ESSER funds. Look like we have about $3 million, a little over $3 million for this coming year. Those can be used for different things, obviously, and I'm glad they're not. I want to be sure I'm understanding correctly. They're not in the budget that you presented numbers right now. So with the small
Correct.
balanced budget, that $3 million is not in there.
Correct.
And we can use some of those funds to offset other things that are already in the budget, right? If we choose to do so. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, helpful. Thank you.
Christine.
When hearing you discuss what we heard about being able to go through the state, the USDA, to recapture some funds there for meals, how are a la carte meals considered in there? Because you said that's where the majority of the loss came from.
Right. So a la carte comes from the students paying for the a la carte items. And most of that a la carte happens at the high school. And since they weren't there to buy the items, then we lost that revenue.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Okay, I know we've got a couple of motions that we need to handle in that case. We need, firstly, item 3.04, approve the adoption of the 2021-22 fiscal year budget as presented. So if I can have somebody make a proposal for that.
Make a motion to approve the adoption of the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Alan. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? And any abstentions? Okay. And then item 3.11, the design package.
Do you want them to specifically, they were going to present on that, David. Do you want them?
No, I thought that wasn't that what Pam just did. Were you going to do more? I thought that was what you'd just gone through.
Yeah, I think Rob was just wanting to make sure that the board understood what was included in that one, and then what would be included in the next bid package. So we were going to do it later at 3.11, but.
Oh, okay. So you have I'm sorry. I thought you dealt with that there.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have an additional presentation. All right. We'll wait for that one to come up then. All right. Good stuff. Thank you. All right. Well, in that case, we'll hold off on that one until later. In that case, item 3.05, strategic planning strategies.
Yeah, Jason, Dr. Adams and I tonight are just going to present real briefly on some of the strategies that we had promised to bring to you as part of our process. The board approved the goals, priorities, and the measurements. I just, again, wanted to speak to those, the priorities. One priority has the social emotional learning focus is just looking at the personal well-being of our students. The other one is an academic. We're an educational institution, so the academics and the learning are important. And then how do we work together with internal, external partners to care for our kids? And you will notice in those, in both as it came to the board, as it's been presented everywhere, there's not a number order with those priorities. They all matter. And if children are not well, then they can't learn well or to their fullest capacity either. And so I just kind of wanted to articulate that. Also, from a process in 21-22, we will be convening quarterly, the plan is, with a diverse group of stakeholders, representatives on the strategic plan to get report to that particular body, get their thoughts and feedback on not just the strategies and the forward progress happening during the year, but also on the plan itself. Following each of those presentations, those sessions with that particular group, of which each board member is invited to be a part, we will make a public presentation at a board meeting for both you as well as the public, just to get that update immediately following. And then that group naturally will help inform our direction and then where we go in 22, 23. Some of the things that Jason and I were just going to share on a few of the strategies, but if you have any questions on any that are in there, you can go ahead and ask. First of all, the implementation of the strategies that are articulated in the board's ABAR policy, it's policy ACI. There's a lot of work in that particular policy, and again, because it's policy, that's part of the gravity of the board approving that. There's actions and strategies and things that we must do. There's things ways we must report to the board. And also collect that stakeholder feedback. So all of those strategies embedded in there will be moved on. We're also going to have we have had a Teachers of Color group that meets on a regular basis and has provided quite a bit of value to that group over the past few years. We are going to also initiate one for brand new hired teachers, so that as soon as they begin their orientation, they'll have the opportunity to kind of gather with one another and then gather with some of the teachers and staff of color within our school system, just to provide that support for one another as well as understanding. We will be doing something with administrators too this year. Sean started that this year, meeting with the administrators of color, and we will continue to work with that particular group. We're going to be selecting a new performance-based teacher evaluation tool. That's something that Sandy and Jason and others will be really involved in. Those of you know that obviously where the magic happens is with our teachers and staff, and we feel it's important that we have a tool that supports the teachers' continued growth and development. And we feel at this point, the teachers feel that we can do better than the one we have now. So that will be a process that we're going to continue, that we're going to start and continue into the year with the hopes of bringing a tool to you for approval later in the year. We will, as it relates to the pandemic, continue to evaluate the health and safety needs of our students and staff as it relates to the pandemic, both from a social emotional standpoint, physical safety standpoint, as well as an academic standpoint. While we have the opportunity to do a lot of things that we weren't able to do over the past year and a half, we still have to be mindful that we're still in the midst of a pandemic, and we still have to help do everything we can to keep kids safe and be mindful and responsive to what they're experiencing as well as our region. I will speak a little bit later to the some of the things that we're going to do with communications and alumni in a different report. Certainly we have some pretty big things happening in our schools, the merger of Steger and Hickson. That's going to be a continued focus of how we help support those schools and they're coming together, as well as the transition of Givens from a lottery school to our neighborhood schools. And the last thing I just wanted to touch on, we're really going to prioritize how we're listening to people and making sure that we're meeting their needs. And one of those ways is with our social emotional learning surveys. This is something that surveys that have been administrated in the past, whether it's a teacher administering surveys, it's just looking to see how kids are doing or how adults are doing. How are they well from a physical, a social, emotional standpoint? And it's critically important that we do that. We made the decision this year to initiate a group that would explore those surveys next year. Once we go through our exploration, we'll be able to determine, come to the board and let you know the direction that we're going to have with those surveys. And again, the goal of those surveys is supporting the well-being of our kids and knowing that they can't fully flourish and thrive unless they're well. And it's the same thing with our adults. So we need something for our adults as well. So I will turn it over to Jason. And Jason, you could share a few, then we could open up the floor.
Hi, good evening to all of you. Can you hear me okay? Very good, very good. So thank you, Dr. Simpson. I wanted to just highlight a few particular areas that the learning department will be focusing on. Dr. Simpson mentioned earlier a new initiative for a new administrator orientation for new administrators, principals, directors, coordinators who would be joining the district. We've had some changes in terms of retirements and so forth, and so we want to make sure that our new team members feel welcomed and feel acclimated to our district. That will happen this summer and will continue throughout the course of the school year, an opportunity for them to get together, just like we afford our new teachers to the district. We also want to do the same thing for our new leaders, and we'll be implementing that this year. We are also going to be looking at some rather large systemic work in terms of our curriculum development process and making sure that we have a consistent process across content areas and across the K-12 experience. And so this is an opportunity. We've actually been working the last 2 days as a learning team with some outside from facilitators, from Education Plus, to review the work of other districts and to think about and reflect upon our own work and how that can inform our work going forward. And so we will be sharing updates related to our curriculum development process with you all in the future as well. Also, as part of that, really thinking about a curriculum cycle. So the process is how we develop our curriculum. A cycle is in terms of we don't want to develop and implement new curriculum in science and social studies and ELA all at the exact same time. We want to make sure that each is given their due opportunity, and so we can budget, so we can make sure we provide adequate training. And so really looking at how we can develop a curriculum cycle so that all things aren't changing all of the time. And so we'll be working to develop that as well. We are also going to be implementing, initiating, and monitoring various curriculum projects. So we'll be implementing the revised K-8 social studies curriculum. We'll be monitoring the work that was done with the K-12 health curriculum, some changes that were delayed related to the ELA curriculum resource implementation due to COVID. We'll be picking up that work again this year, and we will be initiating some changes or a review, if you will, of our K-12 counseling and guidance curriculum. And I wanted to mention just one more area, which is a topic that came up in a previous board meeting, but also really monitoring the implementation of the new Webster Groves High School schedule and looking at feedback from there and determining the success and any changes or modifications that need to happen going forward. So again, those are not everything that we've included in the strategic plan, but a few highlights of the work that we hope to do.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I've got a few. So I'd like to kind of preface this just, although we're not in person, this is our last meeting where we're not in person, right, David? I believe we're going to be meeting in person moving forward. So we are reading your comments. There were quite a few. There was one public comment that had some very detailed questions that I think pertain to this section. So I do just want to take a second to kind of just make sure that we're kind of acknowledging that we've some of these questions specifically. So what I heard from you is the social emotional learning and academic performance are equally important. One doesn't take precedence over the other, even though there may be a number by them in the document. That's correct, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
In terms of really doing and developing the whole child, academics is important, but also their well-being, as Dr. Simpson shared, is equally important.
Okay, thank you. Also, can a student or staff or whoever might be taking the surveys, can they opt out if they want to opt out of taking a survey for social emotional learning? Or
yes, we are happy to work with the family if to either process through what the survey is asking or to determine what is the best path forward. But again, our goal is systemically looking at how we are serving our children academically, but also their overall well-being in terms of social emotional learning as well.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, is there, when you get survey data for something like this, for full transparency, will there be a, like, will it be presented to the board, and then, you know, what steps might be taken afterwards for this type of for these types of surveys?
Sure. So whenever we make a selection of a resource that we would be using, we would bring that back to the board and communicate in terms of what our implementation plan is and how we plan to, et cetera.
Okay.
Just like we would with academics, we would do the same thing with social.
And Alex, what I would say is that we would present to the board, you know, like summary information, like what are some trends? Like obviously personal information is not shared with anybody outside a need to know basis, but I think these are important measurements. This one and our look with our diversity, equity, inclusion. These are important. These are like data points that we're going to bring back to the board, and we're going to look to see favorable trends based on our actions. So yeah, we would never ever single out a child or anything like that, but it's going to be important to our work to bring to you, bring to the community, where are we doing well and where are we not? And I mean, to hear from our children, to hear from our staff, those are critical.
Okay. Thank you. That's it. I mean, I guess the only other one I might have would be, there are a few questions just on data retention and the policy around, you know, what would be done with this data afterwards? How long is it going to be? Are we going to hold on to it? Do you have any thought on that for this survey information?
I would just say that we'll follow any kind of all applicable laws, rules with any of that. Again, there are protections that are in place for children, for, you know what I'm saying, records and data and stuff like that. And we have a lot of different data systems that are out there, and this one will be no different.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a question and a comment. I guess maybe I don't know. I guess I kind of made assumptions that the data you would be gathering was really kind of more along comfort level type things. Am I misinterpreting that? Like, I'm not sure exactly what kind of, I assumed when you're talking about well-being, you're kind of dealing with how, like you said, how people are doing. What's, you know, especially after a pandemic, you know, there was so much depression, so much of a rise in depression and things like that. Like, isn't that kind of, you're kind of getting the feel of where people are? Is that where you're?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just, and I appreciate you guys doing that. That was my comment. I appreciate that is becoming part of, because it is important. It's important for absolutely everyone, parents included. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they can be included as well, so that they don't feel uncomfortable with this.
Yeah.
And I would say as well, a lot of the social emotional work is a continuation of the trauma informed work. That's a part of Missouri's trauma informed initiative that we've been working toward and all other districts are working toward. And so continuing to focus on, again, not only the academic portion of what we do, but also making sure that our kids are well. And so it all ties together and is derived from that work.
Okay, thank you.
And I mean, again, the academic piece is critical. I mean, it's who we are as an educational student, but this year there weren't, while the academics was really big, people wanted their children to come home and they wanted their kids to come home safely, you know? And so we always put the safe and well-being of kids, you know, first. Like, we want them to be healthy, we want them to be happy, we want them to be well. And we want to help them thrive academically and know that all that does for them now as well as in the future. So.
Well, I think what people have to remember too is that when kids are doing well, they do better academically. So the two go hand in hand. I mean, it's you really can't have one without the other. So again, I appreciate the effort put into it. Thank you.
And Keita, and I agree 100%. And I think a survey also, we have a number of students that do really well academically, but some of them are going to do academically and are going to be hurting, or they're not going to do well to the level that they could because they're not for some reason. And so I think sometimes in a Webster, or I'm not just Webster, it can be anywhere, that you'll see the grades or you'll see the affect, or a child that's going to be compliant or complicit. It's going to be a pleaser. And hopefully our teachers and our staff are developing those connections so they know how that child is feeling and can support them. But this is another level, another layer, so that we can see how kids are doing. So.
And it's also important for the teachers and staff as well, because then they can
100%.
teach our kids to their best capacity. So,
100%.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Alan.
Just have one quick comment. I know there's something on the agenda, John, you mentioned later about communication and the alumni and sort of that sort of thing. But as we think about all these great things that are going on in this strategic plan and all these points in the progress that we're going to be making, I just want to just sort of advise us to keep, and you mentioned doing presentations at the board, but think about other ways to proactively communicate all the progress that's being made. I think that's really important as we think about that throughout the strategic plan. So I know we'll probably talk about that more later, but just wanted to keep that as a underlying piece for all these strategic plans and these goals as well.
Christine, did you have something? Okay, sorry, I thought I saw you. Anybody else? Okay, all right, thank you very much. And Dr. Adams, you're up again.
All right, so let me switch over to professional development plan. You will see some similarities, as you should, between our strategic plan and our professional development plan. So much of the professional development plan is consistent with previous plans, but I did want to bring your attention to pages 18 and 19, which is where we get specific about the work in terms of professional learning that will be happening across the district in the upcoming school year. Again, this is consistent with our strategic plan. It's also consistent with the student success report that I shared with you earlier this year in terms of the work that was initiated pre-pandemic, work that we want to continue as we move into the next school year. And so part of our work, I'm not going to read through every aspect of this, but I did want to point out that we are going to be continuing our work specifically in terms of looking at data and structures in place within each school in terms of how teachers and administrators collaborate in terms of making data informed decisions. Also really looking at the implementation of our English language arts, so reading and writing and phonics and phonemic awareness resources that we have been working toward the last few years, particularly at the K-8 level. We will be doing work in mathematics in terms of professional learning, mainly with our math interventionists in terms of how we can better differentiate for our students. Professional learning will accompany our social studies implementation, and we will be doing continued work at the high school level as well. We will be doing as needed work as part of the implementation or the monitoring of the implementation of our recent changes to the health curriculum that were done in previous years. And then really continuing the work related to our diversity initiative, as well as also looking at the social emotional learning aspect and the trauma-informed care work that we previously talked about. Dr. Simpson also mentioned some major change initiatives that are happening within the district, and professional learning, team building, collaboration must be an important part of knowing that this is a unique year as a result of what's happened this year, but then also these particular changes going into next year as well. And so it's going to be very, very important that all of these buildings who are experiencing a change, whether it's a new principal, whether it's a new schedule, whether it's a merger, that they have an opportunity to come together as a staff and really think about their work going forward as a building. And so all of this is reflected in our professional development plan. And I am open to questions, and then I would seek your approval of the professional development plan for 21-22.
Okay. Questions? Okay, I don't see any, in which case I will entertain a motion to approve the 21-22 PD plan.
Make a motion to approve the 2021-2022 professional development plan as presented.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Federal programs report.
Me again. So
Absolutely.
I'd like, I would
You'll
like
get it right
to-
by the third time.
I would like to quickly give you an explanation of our federal programs in terms of Title I programming that we have as a school district. Just to give you some brief context, there are 4 title programs that public school districts have access to. We receive federal funding in 3 of those areas, and I will walk through each of those with you tonight. The first area is Title I. This is where we receive the largest amount of our federal program funding. And this focuses specifically on academic achievement of students that have been deemed disadvantaged, and socioeconomic status is used to determine the level of disadvantage and the level of funding that we receive as part of this grant. I do want to point out over the course of the last few years, you will notice a decrease in funding related to Title I. And I would like to point out that we are anticipating a rather large decrease for next school year. And that has to do with the new census results from 2019, which then inform how much money districts are allocated. And so this is not just a Webster Groves area. A majority of the St. Louis County school districts are seeing a decline in federal program funding for the next few years. And so there is a bit of a decrease going into next school year related to Title I funding. How we use Title I funding really has been focused on academic needs, so really focusing on staffing. So it pays for reading specialists and instructional tutors that support students who fit within that category of needing academic support, additional academic support. The next area is Title II, which is often considered professional development. We are going to see we anticipate seeing a slight decrease in these funds as well for the 21-22 school year. And again, these funds can be used district-wide to support professional development initiatives. This is in addition to the professional development plan that you just approved. These funds are in addition to, but will be used to target the same strategies and the same strategic work that we hope to implement going forward. Again, the areas are the equity training, continuing our trauma-informed care training work, and also reading recovery, which is an academic intervention at the elementary level. The third area, which we do not receive funding for, is around language instruction. And the only reason that we don't receive funding is the percentage of students that we have within our district who would benefit do not meet the threshold in order for us to receive funding to support that population of students. Title IV, which supports academic enrichment, but also can support technology and health initiatives. So really thinking about that well-rounded education. And so we are expecting a slight decrease in these funds as well, but plan to still be able to use them to target the specific areas that we have targeted in the past. And our recommendations for how we hope to use our funds related to federal programs for the 21-22 school year would be to continue to focus on literacy and math. And that would be to participate in professional development, but then also really focusing on staffing in terms of providing additional support for students who may need support in their academic performance. For Title II, continuing to support the areas of equity and trauma-informed work, and also supporting our reading, writing, and phonics instruction. And then for Title IV, continuing to support the computer science program at the high school, and also continuing to provide resources and the renewal of resources for our K-8 health curriculum. And at this point, I will entertain any questions you have related to federal programs.
Any questions? I'm not seeing any. Okay, in which case I'll entertain a motion to approve the federal programs report and recommendations. Keita, do you have those up?
I do. I will make a motion to approve the 2020-2021 federal programs report and 2021-2022 federal programs recommendations.
Second.
Thank you, Joe.
I'll second.
No, Joe's already seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that passes. All right, thank you very much. Dr. Simpson, student advisor to the board.
Yeah, per board policy, we have a student advisor to the board, and as you know, and last year we put a pause on that just so the students could take care of themselves and everything that was going on in the midst of the pandemic. It was a little less than a month ago, we went through a process where we asked interested sophomores if they would be interested in serving in this particular role. We had 16 students, which is a record number, reply with some incredibly powerful essays that myself, Dr. Irvin, Sean, and Jason got to read. And then we invited each in and did an interview with each. It ended up over multiple days. And to a person, they blew us away with their care, their brilliance, and all things. So we had the tough decision to make, but we definitely, there was a consensus of landing on Olivia Hosty and Gavin Wilson to serve as advisors to the board next year. You will have a chance to meet these two amazing young people at the August 5th in-person board meeting. And they will have an opportunity to share just a little bit about themselves with you. Again, kudos to all the students. One of the things that we did, and the first year that we had this position, we put something out to the group to see if those that didn't get the position would be interested in being a part of like a superintendent advisory council. And we had a number of students that did, so we did that. Well, we did that this time around, and the majority of the students, at least 10, have said that they want to be a part of this group that will meet with myself and my central office colleagues on a regular basis to advise us as well as help give us perspective on their experiences. So we're super excited about this and excited for you to meet all of them, including Olivia and Gavin. So the board doesn't have to approve this position, and it's just informational, and
right.
You'll get a chance to meet them in a little bit.
So they'll both attend the retreat on the 5th, and then afterwards they'll alternate between meetings as we've had in the past, then presumably.
That's correct. I tell them that they can work out however they want to do it. They're always invited to come, but that seems to work with their busy schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so and so they sit like all the other advisors we have. So they'll sit at the advisors table, and we will periodically, both if they've got input, but we'll also periodically ask there'll be specific things also that we'll ask them to address the board on, as well as just general comments.
Yeah.
Any other comments about that? Excellent. Let's move on. Restructuring and memorandum of understanding with the foundation.
Yeah, so super excited over the past, I don't know if it's been a month, but have been speaking with some of my colleagues, including Kathy B, about just talking about what we can do to improve communications, improve our work with alumni. We put out information or sought information from other school systems regarding how they do it and what do their positions look like and the such. And ultimately, we've made the decision that the best way to improve both those two departments is to come together. As you know, to have a school system of our size, with all the media and all the communications and the importance of PR, like Alan is sharing, it's a tremendous amount, and it's an unattainable amount for a single person. And Kathy has always and will continue to work as hard as she can, work with different people in different departments to do her best. But we felt like bringing these two departments that are currently right now just two positions, and then adding a third position to it that would be a communications alumni coordinator would really bring a whole lot of value. And you will remember that Pat Voss had left. She wasn't with us in 2021. She was with us in 1920. So there is, that position was never filled. So this different type of position is what we're looking to create and to move forward with taking applicants real soon. We have not, and we're not landed yet. One of the things with us all encouraging one another to take vacations, it's hard for all of us to get in a room to finalize exactly what the job descriptions look like. We've all met, but we've never met all together. So hopefully we'll be able to do that real soon, to post it and bring to you in August this person for this particular job. Related to that, the foundation, we presented, I think David and I both shared to the board at one point, the work of the foundation, and they've just continued to do a remarkable job. The leadership, the group has continued just to elevate that foundation that had a rich tradition already. They were instrumental this year in their work to raise over six figures, over $100,000 in support of the health and well-being of our kids, thinking of food for families, thinking of technology needs and such. They are interested in also continuing that support, not just looking at supporting the district strictly through teachers grants, but through teacher grants and big projects that the district is looking to explore, whether it's something as they did this year, whether it's various capital needs that we have. They're also looking to work with us to help really make it clear to community, to alumni, to anyone who might want to give, how they might do so. Whether that's through them, whether that might be through a high school athletic booster group, whether that might be through a school through PTO. So we're really excited. We sent to you at some point, maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, kind of a draft of, not a draft of the MOU, but a kind of an executive summary. We are still working together. We're working with Doug to develop something that just kind of articulates our relationship and how we're going to collaborate. A part of that, again, is you will have we always support one another as it is right now, but really defining what will be the roles and responsibilities of our people in helping to support them in as ways that they can. So we're super excited about all this work. So open it to any questions at this point, or comments or anything.
So I just make a comment. So I'm the board liaison to the foundation. As they've been working on this from their side, what I've done, I've deliberately recused myself from those discussions. I want the foundation to come up with, because it'll come back to the board for approval, I want the foundation members to go and work out what it is they want to do themselves, and they will they'll do that. They'll come back to something, and I'll sort of see what it looks like then. Okay, if there are no further comments on this, I think it's just very much to sort of watch this space. I think it is an exciting new change. So yeah, we'll look forward to hearing more. Bristol parking lot.
Yes, so we've been working with the group to develop a written agreement. We've had a little bit of a delay, but we are still working with them and our attorney. We did just talk to them again today. It will be, just to remind everyone, valet parking only. They will be entering and exiting from that new Gore entrance that was made there at Bristol. Like I said, we're working through the details of that agreement and hope to have something to bring back to the board to finalize at that meeting in July.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. And just to reiterate again, I mean, the anything that we do here, it's one of the keys obviously is that we have the ability to, if we find that it's not working for any reason, we have the ability to get out of it very quickly.
Yes, that will definitely be a part of it.
Good, excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, 3.11, Proposition E, safety and security window and door bids.
Yes, so this is the window film bid package. So it was publicly advertised. It was sent to 10 contractors. It was posted in 4 different plan rooms. When we opened the bids on June the 1st, we received 1 bid from Midwest Glass Tinters. Mr. Rob Stuber and our architect went through then an interview process with Midwest to make sure they were complying with all of the requirements of the bid and to make sure they felt like they were giving a reasonable price. So the recommendation is to approve Midwest Glass Tinters at $194,851.22.
Anybody have any questions?
I guess my only question would be, since there was only 1 bid, can you just explain a little bit about how you kind of determined, we didn't need to go back out and necessarily get a couple more hats in the ring, if you will?
Pam, can you hear me? I just unmuted.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, there was one component before we received the bids, which was a publicly advertised mandatory pre-bid that we requested for any interested contractors. There was actually 2 contractors that showed up at the pre-bid. And in all honesty, having only 2 contractors attend a pre-bid for any package that we've ever put out in 15 years was a surprise to me. So Pam and I did have a discussion, and I believe Pam can comment on the fact that we actually asked our legal counsel what to do in that instance. And I think due to the fact that we did all of our due diligence and we did have at least 2 attend the pre-bid, but only 1 bid, the recommendation was to move forward with that bid, and then this recommendation. It's never happened before, to be honest with you, in my professional career. We did reach out to multiple vendors that we assumed were going to be there, including general contractors, because a lot of times glass tinters need a general contractor for bonding purposes. There's some dynamics out there in the window tinting glass world. Several of the larger companies are having supply chain issues where they're not able to fulfill their material orders. Luckily, this Midwest Glass Tinters does not have this problem at the time. That was one of the bigger issues that we felt comfortable moving forward is they were able to not only, honor their number, but there was going to be no delays in ordering the materials and installing them on time. So I hope that somewhat answers the question.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Any other questions? Alan?
And so just so I'm clear, this bid is just for the windows and is separate from the door conversation and the audit that we talked about earlier, right? This is just windows.
This will be, in essence, it's all of the exterior windows at 8 buildings within we'll say from ground elevation to 6 to 7 foot above ground elevation. And the one issue that we thought that we would want to mention is it's not just the application of an impact resistant film. We decided to go with the added cost, which wasn't that much more, but we decided to add the element of tinting. So this will be a tinted impact resistant film. And the reason for that is, and talking to some consultants, really the first thing to disrupt any intruder would be the visual ability as they approach a building. So we really did think that the tinting of this impact resistant film was paramount. I mean, I pressed for that and got the architects to include that in their specifications.
Can I ask a question about the film?
Yes.
So I guess what happens in the case of a fire where you need to break windows?
That is an excellent question, because a lot of this increased security measures that are being taken to protect our children are actually impacting the abilities of the fire departments across the nation and wherever to be able to access the facilities. So that's a question that can't be answered right now, because I've even had a discussion with our local fire chief about that, and he, they've got their ways of getting in a building, but the impact resistant film is definitely let's just call it a challenge to them. So I think that's a gray area in this industry now, is the effect on the fire department. So you're absolutely correct.
But I assume that the fireman or fire chief wasn't so concerned that it was a bad thing to do.
Exactly. Yeah. He very much understood that the safety of our children paramount, and they'll get in. What if it's a crowbar in the door or whatever? They can get in. It just may not be, within that second. Might be 12 to 15 seconds.
Gotcha.
But that's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked that.
Other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the award of the design package.
Make a motion to approve the award of design package 2A window film to Midwest Glass Tinters, Inc. in the amount of $194,851.22.
Have a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Joe. All in favor? Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, that passes. Next, we have item 3.12, which is the item 4.06 that we took off the consent agenda, which is the Chartwell's contract renewal. So Pam, if you can just sort of spend just a second. I think in fact in the budget you dealt with certainly questions that I would have had, but if you just want to just talk sort of very quickly about this renewal, and then if you can remind the board how many more. Actually, it says right there. In fact, there's an option of 4 additional 1-year renewals. Okay, so yes, if you have any comments beyond that you'd like to make, please.
Yeah, sure. Well, one, apologize for this getting into the board package late today. There's a CPI figure for the urban area that has to be calculated into that. And Chartwell's was having difficulty getting that from DESE so they could create the contract. But yeah, in the contract, it has that increase. Those fees will be going up 3.8% next year. As we talked earlier, we're going to have the same program next year where the meals will be free to our students again, which is a great thing. We're also hoping to have being able to sell more of those a la carte items. Chartwell's, I don't know if you remember, before COVID hit, we had talked about increasing some of our a la carte items and offerings that we would be having. So Chartwell's is very excited to maybe get that going at those secondary levels for next year. But otherwise, I think we pretty much covered everything earlier.
Mm-hmm. Anybody have any questions about this? Great. Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve the Chartwell's contract renewal.
So moved.
Okay, so thank you very much. So, okay, all in favor of approving the Chartwell's contract renewal for the 2021-22 school year, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
I don't know if we had a second.
Yes, Christine.
Christine.
Anybody opposed and any abstentions? Okay, so that passes. Thank you very much. The second item that we have is item 4.12, which is the second personnel report, and that becomes item 3.13, and that's just because a board member has an interest there, and so needs to be recorded as an abstention. So if anybody has any questions about item 4.12, we can ask them. Otherwise, I will entertain a, let me just go and pull it up here. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to approve personnel report number 2.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Alan. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay, and Ms. Keller is abstaining to that. Okay, great. And otherwise, I will now entertain a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda items. So that's items 4.02, 4.03, 4.04, 4.05, 4.07, 4.08, 4.09, 4.10, 4.11, 4.13, 4.14, 4.15, 4.16, and 4.17.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Good. Okay, the remaining consent agenda items are approved. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion. Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Alex. All in favor of the adjournment, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.